Hello everyone, today's video I'll be reviewing White Zombie from 1932. White Zombie was directed by Victor Halprin, produced by Edward Halprin, his brother. It was written by Garnet Weston. The movie stars Bela Lugosi, Madge Bellamy, George Burr McCannon, Robert Fraser, Joseph Cawthorn, John Herron, and Frederick Peters. The plot of White Zombie is about a rich man asks a witch doctor to make the woman he loves fall for him to get away from her fiancé, but instead she ends up turning into a zombie slave. The movie was released on July 28, 1932. This horror movie is considered the first zombie movie, but not flesh-eating zombies like in the Walking Dead TV show or George Romero's Dead Zombie movies. Instead, they are voodoo zombies being hypnotized. Bela Lugosi, fresh off his success with Dracula, just like Dracula, Lugosi is hypnotic scary in this movie. His character is the leader of the zombies. Bela Lugosi said this was a movie he was most proud of because he had complete freedom to control this movie to a certain degree somewhat. It was one of his personal favorites according to his son, Bela Lugosi Jr. But despite having little freedom and control, he was not given any credit for directing certain scenes in this movie. His character's name is Murder Legendary, and yet no one calls him by that name in this movie. Lugosi is very satanic in this movie. The way he performs his voodoo rituals, you feel like he's really performing rituals. You feel convinced and frightened of that. Just like Dracula, this is another flawed film, but still a good movie. And no music, just like Dracula. The performance in this movie is hit or miss. This is another movie that came out post-silent era, and these actors were another example of not making the transition well from silent films to talkie movies. It's hit or miss with these actors. The performances are not bad, they're just not like great or memorable except for Bela Lugosi being the best part of this movie. Joseph Cawthorn as the preacher was like a ripoff to Van Helsing. This is a movie that I've gone back to rewatch every now and then and appreciate as I get older and put aside this is not a flesh-eating zombie apocalypse movie. Because I'm not really the biggest zombie fanatic in the horror subgenre, but I do love George Romero's Zombies as an exception. This movie shows not all zombies mean flesh-eating, it's mind control. More like a psychological horror when the mind is controlled by somebody else and that person has no freedom or control for themselves. It's another horror movie where you feel like you're in a different world, a dream world, and put in a trance, just like the early silent German expression horror movies, heavy on atmosphere and mood. Just like Dracula, it's slow-paced, boring, no music, but still a great movie that makes you feel hypnotized and like a zombie. This movie was shot under a budget of $50,000, and the filmmakers had an 11-day shooting schedule. They borrowed some set designs of Universal's Dracula and Frankenstein. The difference is, this was not made by Universal. When watching this movie today, I can point out and be analyzed a little metaphor in African-American slavery. When you see the Lugosi character control the zombie slaves, they are a metaphor on slavery. They have no freedom because they were mind-controlled by Lugosi's character. This hitman came to mind when I was writing the script for this video, not that I have proof of this, but it makes you wonder if this is where, like Jordan Peele, got a little inspiration for his horror movie Get Out. How the main character, Chris, meets his wife-girlfriend's family, and the African-American maids and butlers are being mind-controlled by his girlfriend's family using hypnosis. And the mother's using the same thing on Chris's character to make him a slave. There's also a metaphor how like, the rich look down upon the low class. When Beaumont hypnotizes Madeline, the woman he loves, instead she turns into a slave zombie. This here shows why you should never mess with voodoo, and that there's no magic love spell. Never force someone to love you. This movie was independent, it's been in the public domain for a long time. Before, throughout the years, it was considered a lost movie until it was rediscovered in the 1960s. Rob Zombie was inspired from this movie for the name of his band, White Zombie. There was once a rumor that Tobe Hooper wanted to remake this movie. Thankfully, that did not happen. Because if this movie was remade today, it would be a stereotypical flesh-eating zombie apocalypse movie, and forget the whole point of this movie on hypnotic voodoo zombies. But it was remade today, at least try to make it more of like a spiritual tribute. This movie is an early example of early camera techniques that were new around this time. Framing objects like the frame of Madeline and the door, the dialogue scene where the camera begins behind the actor's back, which is a famous technique that was used in Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. The scene is used in one single take, and the scene ends back to where it started, at the actor's back. Unlike Dracula, it was based on a novel, this one was not based on a novel or a book. However, it has been said that the movie was inspired from the book The Magic Island, written by William Seabrook. A friend of mine told me that in the country Haiti, voodoo is a real religion for them. With this movie being in the public domain, you can watch it anywhere, YouTube, or buy it on any DVD or Blu-ray copy. I own this on DVD. The quality is a little bit poor, and the sound is not the best quality, because at that time, Sound was just starting out. The sound quality is not the best. I would like to watch this on Blu-ray at some point, see how it looks different on Blu-ray. And also a reminder, this movie is 90 years old and almost 100 years old. Despite this movie does have a cult following, I've recently noticed that in recent years, the cult following I've noticed seems to be fading away and dying down. My advice to all of you, watch or rewatch this movie if you have seen this movie. Spread the word out, keep the legacy going on to make sure this movie's not forgotten. If it was not for this movie, we would not have other zombie movies today or TV shows. So that was my review of White Zombie. Like the video, subscribe to the notification bell to get the latest updates on my YouTube channel. And I will see you tomorrow for another horror movie review.